Well, hey friends, welcome to Thru Port Collective, and we're back yet again, and we are back in black this time, and we have a very, very fun show for you today, although maybe slightly depressing once you get through it because you'll be filled with envy. As I know I already am, but it'll be a blast because we're talking about Marshall Studio and how he has it set up and all the really cool stuff. I mean, we've already had peeks of it in the show before, but this one we've been really looking forward to. Well, again, welcome. If you are able or are willing, rather, give us a like, and we'll hope you subscribe as well. And we have a little bit of unfinished business from last week, though, because there was a conversation in which things were mentioned, and then proof was required. And so, Tim, do you have that picture ready to go? Or do I need to find that somewhere?
I think it should be on our conversation from earlier. I didn't get it ready to go.
Oh, here. Let me pull it up. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
There was a conversation about lifetimes ago, and there was a rumor that Mr. Tim Grogan had accidentally received quite the mullet, and so we want to share this as it was promised from last week. So
look at that.
There you have.
Behold the greatness of the mullet.
And the mustache too.
Yeah, oh yeah, the little chin beard mustache. Oh yeah.
As I said, it looks like you're ready to don the hat and the sword with the Three Musketeers.
D'Artagnan?
Oh, yeah, Culture of Ghosts. Yeah, a musketeer.
Yeah.
Right before I said it.
The mullet had actually started to soften just a little bit because it was starting to grow out over my ears again. But before it was well above the ears and then just long as back. The classic mullet,
Yeah.
So Paul says that's a proper metal mullet. And I won't say what Aaron says, but we'll just let that be in the chat. Good times. We also had a good laugh at one of my photos and one of Marshall's photos back when Marshall was on Dawson's Creek. You'll pull it up.
Pull it up.
Leave me out there hanging.
Yeah, we're not gonna just embarrass Tim here.
I'm grabbing it. Let's see here. No, I'm gonna have to grab it. So, Marshall, when was this one taken?
That was in 1999, senior year. That's my senior photo, actually.
We all wish we looked like this in 1999.
Drum roll, please.
Bam!
There it is. Oh, yeah. Handsome dude when I had hair. What happened? What happened was all my hair fell out.
Was that Botox in the lips, or are they just naturally full like that?
No, that's just my face. Sorry.
That's just
so a few years before that, but about the same age. Let's see here. Okay, so here's our last one from the mid-90s. A certain young man that played guitar, and
there he is.
That's killer.
Looks better there than he does now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so yeah, Eric needs more laser lines.
I dig it.
Wow. That's good fun right there.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Let
it not be said that we're afraid of fun, because we are not afraid of fun.
Yeah.
well.
Those are amazing.
I don't know.
Sorry,
what's that?
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't even remember what I was going to say now. It'll be hard to top that.
I totally stepped on you there. So.
I believe we have the perfect thing to top that. To
yeah.
Top pretty much a lot of things. Coming right
All right,
up.
so we're talking about your studio, Marshall. Just a quick word. There's also we don't probably everybody's heard it right. There's 2 really cool firmware updates out. One for the Matriarch, and also a very big one for the Hydrasynth. 2.0 is out. So if you have a Hydrasynth and you haven't checked that out, I mean, we could read the release notes, but I don't think we're going to. So, but lots of really cool stuff in there. Quantized envelopes and stepped LFOs and all sorts of really great stuff. So be sure to check that out. That said, all right. So Marshall, studio tour.
Studio tour.
I know. I'm sure you got a plan of action, but like, what's the big picture of your studio? Like, what's the general layout of everything as far as? Because I know it's a multi-room expanse. What's the big picture on it?
Well, it's just I have a lot of equipment, and a lot of it is kind of throughout the house at the moment. Most of it I have access to or can have access to easily, but not everything is hooked up all the time, if that makes sense. And I've set some stuff out, and you'll see in a second when I go through. But right here, this is the primary studio where I do most of music production, video editing, podcasts, whatever, all that stuff. YouTube, all done in here. And next door is the live rig, which we'll get to. And then I've got some stuff in my living area. So, but hopefully tastefully done. I think so. And then some stuff in another room that's right now it's just kind of overflow, but I want to set it up. Like it's doing, like I've got some servers in there set up for my website, some stuff, but I don't have another music production station really other than this one and then the live rig. So I want to, the idea will be eventually to set up some kind of audio over network stuff like AVB or Dante, some kind of protocol like that to where I can have access to anything in any room. That'd be the ideal. That'd be the ideal setup there. So, yeah.
How complex is that to do?
I don't know exactly. The nice thing is it's not super difficult to get Ethernet into some of these other rooms. So I think it's just a matter of having some kind of DSP on the other end that can decode, or if you can do it connected directly to the computer. I'm not sure. That's stuff I have to look into.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do you want to begin?
Well, I just fire this wireless cam up and start taking you guys on a tour. And
let's do it. Studio tour.
Let's do it. So, okay. Let me know if you guys seeing this okay?
Yeah, everything's looking good.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
So, we'll come start over here. This is the Andromeda A6. It's a pretty sweet synth. I haven't done a lot of stuff with it yet, but I've had it. I think I bought it shortly after I moved here. These things kind of have issues sometimes with the pots, and these definitely need to be cleaned because some of the values are kind of skipping on this, I noticed. But that's something I should be able to take care of myself. Prophet 10, which we all know when this came out. It's pretty cool. It's Moog 1, 16 voice. This is the 7th one, serial number 7, so it's kind of cool, I guess, in that regard as well, like an early serial number. Novation, it's an Ultranova that's in there, but I don't have it out. Down here, we've got a couple of circuit bent things. So speak and read. And it's been modified with some switches. You get it all glitchy, and then a speak and math, same kind of thing. It's this guy, Fast Mad. who makes these. I don't know if he still does. I've had this by almost 10 years. But, yeah, so there's those.
Marshall,
those are so fun.
Do you have the Speak and Spell because you spent so many years with synthesizers, you can't talk to normal people anymore, and you need that to help you?
It's just nice because I can get some cool vocals in and stuff. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It helps me do math and teach myself how to read again. So up here is a Hydrosynth, which you were just talking about. I didn't know there was a firmware update, so I'll have to do that on this to get this up to date. This is a cool synth. V-Synth GT. This is one of my favorite Roland synths. Like the V-Synths in general, the original and this one, I think they sound really nice. And the touchscreen on them is cool. It's really intuitive to kind of get through and just dig into stuff. I don't know if anyone has a lot of experience with these nowadays, but yeah, it's cool. Time trip pad, which was kind of a thing. We got the D-beams for life over here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oberheim OB X8. This is one of those that everyone was like super excited for, and I'm very happy to have one of these. Super excited about this guy. And down here we got a Waldorf Kyra. I've done a lot of demo videos and made a lot of music with this. This is one of my favorites. I think some people might think I'm crazy, but I think this thing sounds just excellent, especially for like the type of music I make, the trance and techno stuff. It's really good for that.
Why do you think it's so overlooked? Because I've seen not very much on it, but you seem to got a lot of really great use out of it. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's it came out right before the Hydrosynth, and I think Hydrosynth kind of sucked a lot of the air out of the room, so to speak. And on top of that, like it's kind of I don't want to say weird, but it's a little bit weird how to navigate through some of the things, but it's not anything that's super difficult to learn. Just a little bit of time with it, and it's no problem. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of Hydrosynth came out, did some really cool stuff with wavetables, whereas these are just single cycle wavetables in here. You can't scan through them. But it was never really touted as something like that. But I feel like it just kind of got lost in the shuffle at that point. And it was really expensive. I think it was like over $2,000 for one of these. But there's a lot of horsepower here, a lot of voices. It's a lot of people were comparing it to the Virus. Maybe kind of turn like that a little bit, I guess. The TI2 down here, which I still have. I thought maybe when I got this, I'd be able to replace that, but no, they sound quite a bit different. And I think they've got some different. Yeah, there is some overlap with it. Obviously, it's virtual analog.
That's Wagyu was making that comment that everybody was desperate for to sort of be a new Virus.
Yeah, well, that's one of those instruments that they haven't updated in like over a decade now, or I should say they haven't come out with a new version. I think they've updated the software on it a few times. I still love this thing. I still use it a lot, the Virus, that is. And the integration, at least for me, I haven't had too many problems with the USB connectivity on this. I know some people have had nightmares with trying to get the USB to work correctly. So I don't know if that's like a hit or miss thing, but like I use it all the time that way. In fact, there's no direct analog audio outputs connected to this. I'm only feeding USB at the moment for this. So that was that. So this is the setup over here with my overhead top-down camera rig, a couple of lights, M-Audio BX8A monitors. Like I've had these for forever. I think 2004 I got those. And then of course, my station here. This is my primary MIDI keyboard for in the studio here at the moment. Innovation SL 61 SL Mark II. And there's a Mark III in the other room, but this is kind of the main thing for that. Ableton Push version 1. Then we kind of come down here. I've got that's the primary computer that's running the video stuff. I can't remember what they call this. It's the M-Audio subwoofer. So I've got a 3.1 set up in here, basically with the monitors and then that. That's my Morningstar pedal that I'm using for the live stuff. That I've as I designed that up, I've brought it in here, and I'm doing some fancy USB over the network stuff to control the rig in the other room. Then over here, this is my primary mixer right here. It's a Yamaha. So it's kind of dark. It's a 01V96i. I had the version 2 of this, but it died, and I tried to get it fixed, and they wanted to charge me almost as much as it would have cost to just buy a new one, and so I got the more modern version. It's kind of overkill. Like, I don't really use this other than like audio pass-through to Ableton, but that's what I have, so it's still here. But
Marshall, with the M-Audio, are those the monitors that you mix on?
Yeah, these are the mixing monitors over here. So these two, and then the sub down here. Yep. And so everything's patched into this. We've got a patch bay here that can patch all the synths in this room, and there's even a lead that comes through from the live room that I can plug into here and record if I need to, or pass it through to video. But here's the main computer for the audio production stuff. All these machines are custom built. Like I build my own computers basically. So I part them out, put them together, and use them. So, and then down here we have JP8080, which I don't have on at the moment, but I kind of think I want to move this into the live rig, so I have two, so I have the 8000 and one of these. I just think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it there.
The 8080, is that just the rack mount version of the 8000?
Correct. Yeah, it's got two more voices and I think the vocoder's in addition to that too. I don't think there's a vocoder on the 8000, but the 8080's got a vocoder, and it's 10 voice instead of 8. So, and over here is this crazy rack where we have basically 3 Slim Fatties. These are all wired up into this Behringer XR8. I can't remember what this is, XR8 or XR12, whatever. The one without USB, like the cheapest one I could get. These are all kind of coming in here. So this is like its own 4-voice synthesizer now, because I've got these 3 and then the actual little fatty over here. So these are all MIDI together for polyphony. So I can do 4-voice polyphony with the little fatties, which is cool. And then they're all mixed in here, and then the outputs come in and mix in like it's a single instrument. So that's pretty
awesome.
Cool. That's a really great sounding rig. I've enjoyed the stuff I've done with that.
I just wish that, it's kind of got some bugs in it. Like, I don't think Moog ever really fully fleshed that out, right? So these have to be rebooted after about 15 minutes when you're in polychain mode.
Ooh.
For whatever reason. So you only get about 15 minutes of playtime before it like locks up and you gotta reboot it. It's kind of weird.
Hey, Marshall, Imperfect is asking which Moog Mono is your favorite.
Oh, which Moog Mono?
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough. I think I like the Little Fatty the most, but probably it's because it's the one that was my first Moog. But I mean, how can you? I mean, there's a Model D right here too, so it's like, I mean, and these are all great monos. I don't know. I think I would still give it to the Little Fatty though. Like, I like the distortion on that. And I don't know. It's a cool synth.
Yeah.
But back to this here. So patch bay, everything's patched in. Then we have a EMU Proteus 2000. This is all my Land of rack stuff. Roland Integra 7. Then we have a Roland XV5080. Then a JD 990 that the screen here, this is a replacement screen, but as you can see, it is, I don't know if I've got a problem with this thing not booting up. Something's going on with it, so I'm going to have to take it apart and figure out what's going on. And then a Korg Tritless rack. And then we have another Behringer mixer, that's the XR18. That's the one that can pass USB, like use as an audio interface. And that's connecting to the computer over there. So that's like a separate thing for all the video stuff.
So I feel like this is something I should have known, but I didn't realize the extent of your love for Roland synthesizers. But you really do have quite a few of them.
Yeah, I have a lot. I think I got more Roland stuff than anything. They've got great sound. I mean, most of them sound really, really good. So
yeah.
And the thing is that a lot of these like rack ones, I started getting a lot of these because, first of all, they didn't cost a whole lot of money when I started buying these, but they've also been used in some really famous music that I've been trying to kind of reconstruct. Some Halo game music, and the composer of that used like the JD 990 and the Proteus and some of these things. But the Integra is kind of like what they did after the V-Synth, I think. So it was kind of like the upgrade to the V-Synth. And when they came out like the Jupiter 50 and 80, I think it has the same supernatural sound engine or whatever they called it in those, even though they kind of styled them like Jupiters. Like they're kind of like the upgrade to the V-Synth. That's kind of how I always saw them. So, yep, and then Little Fatty, Sub 37, Model D reissue. This is the 2016 version. Glad they brought these back so people can get them again.
So let me ask you, like, because you've got, I mean, you've got the Sub Fatty and the Sub 37, the Mini Moog. With your mono Moogs, like, what kind of purpose do you have for each of them? Like, what sounds is one like for leads, one go to bass, or are they just totally mixed around? Kinda,
yeah, I use them for I've used them all for everything. I've used leads on here, I've used bass on here. I've done, actually, the Sub 37, I've done a lot of like effect sounds. So like transitional sweeps and things like that. I've done a lot of cool stuff like that with this. But I've also done bass and leads, and same with the Fatties. Like the Fatties have a really nice growl to them when you get the distortion turned up. So, and I like that, but they can also be pretty mellow and chill. Like some of the like that demo I did with the Polychain was like a really soft kind of mellow patch. So the thing that's
What's that? Go ahead.
The only thing that bugs me about these is the keys are starting to yellow, so I don't know if I need to see if I can either brighten those up somehow or get some replacement keys.
Looks absolutely fantastic in white with the blue lights. Do you have any problems with the sticky sides or anything? Or
the sticky sides? What do you mean?
Yeah, was it those that had maybe not the white ones, but I think some of the other Moogs would get like some of the appointments would get the kind of sticky rubbery stuff on it. I was kind of wondering if those did or not.
I don't think so. Well, it is kind of rubbery actually. I didn't notice that. Yeah. It doesn't feel sticky or anything, but it definitely is. I didn't notice that. Like the texture on the ends of these is kind of rubberish.
Yeah. I hope they do something again like those.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they. I mean, well, what's the one that they came out with? The Sub 32 or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a mono that, I guess, a smaller key bed. I don't know. I don't know what Moog's doing these days, but they gave us this, which makes me happy. So, and I'm glad they've got most of the stuff worked out here on this. Oh, I forgot to show you guys this. I got another Blue Arc. So I found somebody on Reverb who was selling one of these, and these are basically impossible to get now. So I was able to pick one up. So I have a second one for my live rig in case anything happens to the primary Blue Arc. I've got another one. So, any questions about this, or I'll take us over to the other space?
What starship is on the monitor there? Is that the Voyager?
Oh, yeah. I got little models here of some Star Trek ships, like the USS Voyager and a little Klingon battleship thing. And then over here, I got the Enterprise model, the D.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Trekkie.
So before you head out of there, like I'm noticing like you've just as far as like your strategy with this. So you have synths lined up on, a wall and a half, but your computer rig and then everything to the right of that seems to be all about getting to things quickly. Like you've got so many patch points, you get the mixer, everything is connected. Like connectivity seems to be a really big thing for you as well. You've done a lot of creative stuff with it.
Yeah, well, it helps when you have a lot of stuff like this to be able to patch stuff in quickly. So if I'm just noodling around on one of these or whatever, I can easily plug it in, mess around, start building other stuff. Be like, oh, I haven't used this Sub-37 in a while. Come over here. You know what I mean? It's just nice. It's nice to have that flexibility. Because the mixer there is only a 16-channel input, but I find that's plenty. Like I don't really, once you get a track going, I don't know. I've never been like 16 is not enough.
Yeah.
So. All right, I'm going over here. So we're going to go across the way. What's up, Binky? This is the live rig as it sits currently. Got a nice like overhead camera set up. A couple little cheap monitors just so I can hear what's going on when I'm doing some live stuff. And I guess I'll just kind of come over here. So this is the brain of the whole operation. In here, it is a Miko, an Open Labs Miko Timberland edition. I said it wrong. I think I was saying it Timberland in one of my other videos, and I got yelled at for it. It's Timberland, I guess.
Oh, I mean, how dare you?
Yeah. Right.
Or Timberland is how you say it. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong.
Is it
anyway.
Tim Groganland?
Yeah. So this is cool. Like,
sorry, Marshall. When did that beast come out?
I was just gonna say. So these came out in the early 2000s, like 2004-ish. I think right around when these started coming out. Company named Open Labs was making these, and basically it's a full-blown Windows PC in a chassis that's like a keyboard with an audio interface. So it's a PreSonus Firebox is the audio interface on here that's built in, and it's got a FireWire connection, so you can get some inputs in here quickly. But also on the back, I think there's several inputs and outputs as well from this. So just out of the box, this thing was pretty cool. But it's old, so it's running an old Intel Core 2 quad or something, like really old internals. It wouldn't run modern Ableton or anything like that. So what I did is I took it apart, put in more up-to-date internals, and I've got it running Windows 10, Ableton, and this basically I'm using like everything that's in here kind of funnels through this Xair 18, which I'm using as the audio interface right here, and that connects over USB to this. So I've got 18 channels of audio coming in, and I can mix my live sets so that they sound more like a record. Does that make sense? Like I've got full control over the production.
In Ableton,
In Ableton, just like I would in the studio over there, like when I'm mixing, like to make it sound super professional. That's why this is here. Yeah. So, JP8000, probably the best super saw ever, in my opinion. That some people might disagree, but it's the original super saw, and I think it still sounds the best.
So super saw, is that like important for trance music?
It is. It's one of the sounds that kind of defines trance. So, yes, kind of important. But they did make trance before they had these, so trance doesn't have to have super saws. But
You just have to have like 8 mini Moogs or something to be able to use it once.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah, like Suit and Tie Guy's got a video where he takes a Prophet 10, I think it's an old school Prophet 10, and does like an epic supersaw with it. And it's hilarious. Check it out on his thing. Chord Radius. This was like, when I started buying synthesizers, this was one of the first ones I ended up getting. These came out in like 2006, and they're really good for trance and techno and house and stuff as well. 4-port multi-timbral synth engine, and it's got drums, samples. It's got the whole 9 yards. Like, these are pretty cool.
So is that the one where it kind of pops up like a mini Moog or a mini Moog?
Like a mini Moog. Yeah, this will pop up, and it's kind of interesting how this thing is connected, because it's literally a rack just kind of set into a keyboard chassis, and then you've got a cable that plugs the keyboard into the synth. But you could take this off and just mount it in a rack if you want. And in fact, when I got this, I think I got it just the rack, and I ended up finding somebody online who was selling the keyboard part, and I ended up buying the keyboard part separately like years later.
Yeah, it looks like that's, Wagyu's done the first part of that. He's got the Radius rack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and these are still great sounding synths, I think. Then we've got a Yamaha One X. I think this is the only Yamaha synth I own. And it's a pretty good sounding VA. And the cool thing is, this thing, I think it came out in 96, it's one of the first synths I can think of that has an editor on the computer. So you can actually sync this up with an editor, program sounds that way. It's a lot easier to do that than use this crap interface. Like, look at this garbage. You know, typical Yamaha. Like, they make great sounding stuff, but like, why do you do interfaces that look like this? Like, why don't you make it look like this? Like, or this? Like, what is this? Like, I don't understand.
That interface on it looks like it belongs to one of those label makers.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this thing. And like, make a better interface, please, Yamaha. I don't even know if their modern stuff is any good, because I just don't have any, because most of the stuff they make now is like those workstation synths that I just don't really have. Like the Montage and the Moog X and all that stuff. And I'm sure they're great, but I'm sure they've got their own. I mean, it's Yamaha. It's going to be crap. Like, the interface is probably going to suck.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but that was the upgrade.
Right.
I mean, after the DX7, the only place you have to go is up.
Yeah, but man, they only went up like one rung on the ladder here with this. Unbelievable. Anyway, original V-Synth here. So this one's, it's cool. Like, the GT is like 2 V-Synths in one, and it had a color touchscreen. So this is the original, though, with its old school thing, but it has the D-beams for life. Just some D-beam action.
D-beam action.
And then we got a Quantum. This is such a great synth. I'm kind of bummed that they've come out with the Mark II now with the poly aftertouch keybed, but this thing is still really nice, and it's got some really awesome potential in terms of like the type of synthesis you can do in this. I think this is probably the coolest synth in terms of like flexibility, like what I can do probably out of probably just about anything I have. Like, it's super cool. I love this thing. And
it's one of the most beautifully designed ones as well. It's a really
gorgeous
looking synth.
It's gorgeous. It looks modern and cool, and I think you can even change like the LEDs if you want to get really into that kind of stuff. Yeah, the touchscreen's a little. It's not as sensitive as I would think, or as I would like, I should say. I don't know if that's an issue with these. Like, I remember when they came out, like, some people were kind of complaining about it. Mine's always worked. It's just kind of a little finicky when you get in the corners and stuff a little bit. But nothing that I would be like, oh, I'll send this back or anything. Just kind of a little getting used to it.
Paul wants to know about your Osmos.
What that?
When you getting one?
Well, the Osmos will be here. They said, like, I reached out to them recently because I was like, yeah, I thought I was getting it in March. But they said April, so.
It's always next month.
Yeah, always next month. I've only been waiting since 2019, folks.
So a practical question for you regarding like that area. So one thing I was noticing, your room is lit from the top there, obviously when you're not performing. Do you have any other sort of lighting, like when you sit at the Quantum or the One X, like to program? Do you have other lighting like underneath your other synthesizers, or is the room lighting enough?
No, the room lighting is enough. And when you have a decent amount of controls on here that's well labeled and easy to read, unlike this crap, this thing is a lot easier to get into. So. This thing I basically need to hook it up to the computer and use their editor from like 25 years ago if I want to get anything. This is a piece of cake. This is how you make a synthesizer with a fair amount of controls on the front panel. It's still got some ending diving if you want to get deeper into stuff or access some of the other LFOs and things, but it's a lot. And in here, like, it's plenty bright enough for me to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
well, if it wasn't, you could use the One X to make a label for the other synthesizers.
That's right. I think if I type whatever and it'll just spit it out the back and then stick it on there.
It makes set lists.
Yeah. So this is another push. I never got the Virgin 2. I have like 3 or 4 of these original pushes that I bought forever ago, and I just still use them because they work fine.
Well, so what do you use it? So again, I'm Guitar World and Polysynths, and I don't know what these little boxes do. So what does a push do for you in this rig?
So the push basically allows me to control Ableton from not being at the computer. So I can trigger scenes. Or I can scroll through the different sections of the song. It's a fancy control for Ableton.
Okay.
So you can do a lot of the stuff from here versus having to sit at the computer. And what I've done with that Morningstar pedal though is going to kind of eliminate this. I'll still keep it just in case, in case I need to do something for whatever reason, the pedal is giving me a hard time or whatever. I can still control stuff from here. So. And basically, the way I have set this up is I write tracks in scenes basically, and I stack the scenes together. And so the progression of the song would be just basically triggering the scenes one after another to get through the song. But in addition to that, like there's program changes. I think the program changes are actually coming from the Blue Arc, which I'll talk about in a second, but. I'm also doing like filter cutoff and sweeps and stuff that are getting sent back out from Ableton in through the Blue Arc and then out through the synths. Because all the instruments here, like none of the synthesizers are directly connected to this for MIDI control. Like this is only being used for audio processing basically and some automation. Mm-hmm. But all the synths connect to this guy right here, which is the heart of this whole rig, and it's called the Blue Arc DM, and it's a hardware arpeggiator. It's got 8 instances, basically, of Blue Arc in it, and so everything is connected to this. This is the whole brain. And then this is the 61SL Mark III controller. This is directly connected to this, so when I play this, it triggers this. If that makes sense. And then I have this guy here, the beat step, and this I'm just using to be able to enable and disable the different instances within the Blue Arc from here, like quick and easy with easy to see feedback with the lights on here. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
It does, but I got questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Well, I mean, so when you're launching scenes and whatnot of that nature, do you kind of keep them lined up in a sequential way, or like in what way do you have them sort of mapped out in your brain?
Well,
And
everything is
hardware.
everything is linear. So this if I was to scroll this up to the top, that's the start of the song, and then each basically step through on the scene is the next like couple of measures. So I might do like 2 measures, and then do another scene, and then it's almost like when I learned to write music was in Frackers, and you would do the same kind of thing. Like you would make little sections that would loop, but you could then progress through to another section with another loop, and that's basically how I make these songs.
What about like are you using actual keyboard switching to do things like actually from the keyboard itself there on the not
like on this?
Yeah.
Oh, so this I'm just using to play keys, to play notes, which triggers the different Blue Harp instances, which then triggers all the other instruments. So it's kind of like a real. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but so in a way you are using it to trigger the Blue Harp, yeah.
Yeah. So this basically becomes the primary control surface for everything, because once I start, and I've got stuff sectioned off to where, I've got a split point somewhere around, like the C here. I can't remember where it is, but I don't want to. If I start playing it, it might be too loud. I don't want to blow you guys' ears out. But I've got a split point here where a certain amount of instruments are being used for either like texture pads or something that I don't need to worry about chords, bass lines, stuff like that, are kind of down here. And then up here, I've got the more complex arpeggios or leads that are just doing like MIDI pass-through, so I can play chords and stuff like that. It's kind of like, the way I kind of think about this is, we were just talking about those workstations that Yamaha makes, or, Roland or whatever, where you can produce like whole tracks in the box kind of thing, but you're using their internal synth engine and effects and all that kind of stuff. But you can program stuff to where everything's kind of controlled, like almost very similar to this. But instead of having like one box that does it, like this is obviously very customized with third-party equipment everywhere. But that's kind of what it is, right? So
for a guy that doesn't have any quote unquote modular gear, you have a very modular setup in all of this.
Right. That's true.
That is true, yeah. But yeah, and I've got a couple semi-modular instruments, but I don't know, the modular synth stuff, I'm just like, I don't want to spend a bunch of time putting a patch together and then take it apart and then not be able to get it back again. If that makes sense. So I kind of like synths that have patches, or if it's something very simple like a mini Moog or something, like that's fine. Plus it's a mini Moog, so it is what it is. Then we got a Nord Wave TB3. I think I have almost every version that's come out in recent years of the reissues of the 303. This one I got because, this one I'm using at the moment because I think it has, I think it sounds pretty good with the distortion on it. And I think it sounds better than the TB03 for kind of what I'm trying to do right now. Mm-hmm. And the Behringer one I think is actually the best sounding one, but it doesn't have MIDI CC controls for things like filter cutoff. So because I want to be able to automate some of that stuff, I had to take that out, even though I think it sounds better than any of the other ones I have. Then we got JD08 Boutique. So this is a boutique version of the JD800.
You have a JD800, right?
Yeah, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit. That's kind of the live rig. Then over here, there's a 1U rack computer in here that I built that is basically what these two screens are for, and it's what's projecting on the LED screen behind me. So I can project video. I have a program on here. It's called Magic something. Right, I create my own like motion graphics that I can either make them react to MIDI input or audio, So, like when I do some of the performances in here, you'll see stuff kind of moving to the music. Like that's all done here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I got some lights and stuff. I'm trying to figure out how to get kind of hung up here, so I get more of a, I guess like concert kind of vibe going on. Because right now I've just got these regular LED lights. So it looks kind of weird, I think, with those, and then you got the colors from this, and then, yeah. Anyway, so these will do more colors and stuff, and I can sync them up with the music and stuff too. So I've got 2 of these that I'm going to try and hang up here on this little truss thing.
Now, how do you, as far as the lighting goes, when you're doing a live set in this room, how long is it taking you to set up a lighting program to go with a particular song or jam?
Well, I've got some stuff that I've worked on. Like, I mean, I've had this screen and this software for a long time. So I have a lot of stuff pre-made that I've made over the years. But if I was going to go from scratch, it doesn't take too long to just kind of whip something up. Or, like I said, or you could just play a video. Like, so this is just playing, right now, this is just playing a YouTube video with some fractal art.
Oh,
nice.
Like that's all that's
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of low res, like, and the idea is, turn the light off and you kind of step back and you can get a little better idea of the visualizations that are being seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that screen.
Yeah. I want to get like a full video wall for in here, but those are really expensive, and maybe one day. So that's pretty much it for the live. What's that thing?
I'm sorry. Yeah. When you take this live rig out, when you will do that, you will take that video screen as well, right?
I mean, the idea would be to take it, yeah. This is all, like, this whole thing is going to be one whole deal. Now, I may have to figure out how to do, maybe with a couple less synths. Maybe I can eliminate 2 or 3 of these, just for ease of mobility.
Yeah.
And quicker turnaround for hookup, because this is going to take a little while to hook up and set up and break down and everything. And it would be cool, like, I think for the first couple of shows that I may not do the screen, just because it might be a little too much in terms of setup.
Yeah, right. Especially to begin with.
As far as transport, I mean, you haven't taken it out yet, but what are you thinking as far as transport? I mean, you obviously need a fairly good size truck or trailer, but are you planning like synth cases? How are you going to pack all that stuff up?
That's what these guys are. I have a whole bunch of these hard cases. When I moved from Colorado to Florida, I had to pack everything up anyway, so I got a bunch of hard cases for everything. So I have a whole bunch of these. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would load everything up into their cases, put them in my truck, and get to the gig, unpack, set up. Yeah.
Get you an intern to help you unload and set up?
Yeah, I need a roadie or something. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Get an intern, yeah. Get somebody that you can teach them a bunch of things, and then in return they can help you for a gig,
Yeah, exactly. Even if I threw them a few bucks here and there. Oh, I forgot to say, so on the back of this blue art, so you got 4 outputs for MIDI, and 2 DIN inputs and some USB connectivity. But so to get all of these synths, I think there's 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's 8. To get all 8 of these working, I had to get a MIDI through box that'll split. So one of these is being split into this to give me, this is a 1 in 5 out, I think, or 2 in 5 out. Yeah, it's just a little MIDI through box so I get the additional instruments connected. I tried using one of these, but for whatever reason, I think it's because it's not powered. I was having issues with notes getting stuck. And as soon as I upgraded to this guy, it was much more solid.
Yeah, it's probably because it wasn't powered.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just too much, trying to run all this crap off of this stuff, and it's the Blue Harp when it starts sending, it's sending all these messages all at once. It's crazy. So I just think it need something with a little more. All right, so that's the live rig. Any questions?
What are those little monitors you have down there? The little speakers.
Oh, so these are just like, I got these on Amazon. I think they're Goners. They're just like little 3.5-inch tone. It's just something so when I'm in here, I can hear without having to wear headphones all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just a little nicer. But I'll be out, like I have another run that runs down here and back into here, so I can actually mix on these monitors from out there. And I can remotely connect into the Miko and control all the mixing stuff from there. And even the Blue Harp and stuff, because I can do USB connectivity over the network. So it's kind of cool, because I can basically work on this in the other room, even though I'm not in here, which is cool.
Yeah, before you move on, cool. Couple questions here. So Marshall forgot to talk about the Nord Wave, despite me dribbling on about it from Wagyu.
Sorry, Nord Wave. I forgot about the Nord. These are cool. Like, these are cool synths. I want to get one of the new ones, the Nord Wave 2s. These are from like 2009-ish, somewhere around there. I remember I had one back in the day, and I always liked it, but I had sold it at one point. So I got another one a few years back, and I want to use it in the live rig, so that's why I'm using it. These are cool because they're kind of, you can do some sampling. You can sample in your own waveforms and use them as an oscillator. And one of the things that was cool about this is that it shipped with a bunch of Mellotron samples. So it's got some really killer sounding like flutes and strings and like old school like Mellotron sounds that this thing shipped with. But so the weird thing about it is it's got some onboard storage that you can connect to over. So you connect this up to your computer like USB, and you can literally just transfer over WAV files to it. But it doesn't do USB over MIDI, MIDI over USB. Is what I meant to say. It's still got only the DIN connectors for MIDI, which is kind of weird because it's like right around that time when they started putting USB on everything. And I think even the original V-Synth had USB over MIDI, although the driver doesn't work anymore. But it was a thing.
How about your latency? Mr. Cowfood is asking between the two rooms.
Oh, it's negligible. It's so close. It's not even. I don't have to worry about it. If we're talking about like the time, like the difference between from audio being fed out of here into the other room and to come out the speakers over there, like I'd say, I mean, there is some, but it's not enough to cause an issue. If that makes sense.
And Aaron wants to know, where's your Venom?
The Venom is in the other room, so we will get to that. I don't think I have it out, but it is in the other room, same with the Beatmine 12. So since we're done with that, I'll just walk in here. So this is my living room. And here we go. Here's a synth. Look at that. Matrix Group.
Ah.
Cool. This got kicked into here because the Oberheim came. So, and these are cool because I got little benches I can come here, plug in some headphones, and just kind of noodle around with these. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's a JD 800. That this one, when I moved out here, I started doing a red glue issue, so I had to tear it apart and take all the keys out and soak them in like drain cleaner. I guess it eats the glue away. I found some stuff online on how to do it, so I had to pull all the keys out, get the weights pulled out before it completely destroyed this thing. And I did. I put it all back together, and it's perfect.
Nice. Good job on
that. Yeah. So here's the K2500X that I got shipped from the East Coast. This is another one of those synths that I got because I want to do some Halo music, and this is one of the synths that was used to produce that original soundtrack. The thing is that when I got it, these end sheets are extremely brittle, and they were both destroyed. So it took me a while, but I found somebody on eBay selling a set. So I bought the set from this gentleman, and I put them in, and this thing looks pretty good.
Wait, I'm living in the wrong state. Look at all that room.
Yeah, this place is pretty big. So then here's
yeah, there we go.
one of the coolest synths ever, the 2600, and this is obviously the core reissue. This is where it sits for now. I'd love to get this in and do some recording with it, but limited space in that other room at the moment. So it's out here, and it's fun to still kind of noodle in.
You did do a live recording with it some time ago, didn't you?
Yeah. I've used it in the live rig a couple times. Yeah, so it's not like it just sits out here all the time. Since I'm doing that whole thing, this had to come out somewhere. So it's out here for right now. It's still playable. And we're going to go back over to this other room. This is the dungeon. So we got a couple of synths. It's pretty dark in here, so I'm sorry. I can see if I can turn the light on. Maybe. There we go. SH201.
Oh wow.
These are old, like 2006. They have a really good. The super sound on these is really close to the JP8000. So if you can't get JP8000, this is a pretty good option. Prophet 08. So, and again, this is one of those sets that I've had, but I haven't really used a whole lot. But I always kind of wanted one, so here it is. Alesis Ion. This is a really interesting synth, actually, and it sounds really good. It's great. I think it's kind of pretty underrated. I don't see people talk about these too much, but they're pretty cool.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those.
Yeah, they have like the little version called the Micron, I think is what it was called. This is like the big brother to that. And it's cool because it's got like 3 pitch mod wheels. I think it's 1 pitch and 2 mod wheels. So it's kind of interesting setup how they've done that on there.
That's cool.
So the Venom and stuff is in here. I'll keep this bastard in the closet. I don't know if you can see it back here. There's the Venom socked away. I think that's a DeepMind 12 right there. So I think I've got another. I keep all the synth boxes everywhere, so they're kind of hidden throughout the house in case I need to sell something. I've got
I guess it sort of helps to balance out the house when you have some synths across the way from your other synths. It just sort of helps balance the house.
Yeah.
Kind of in a feng shui sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much it, guys. I'll take this long walk back to the rack.
Oh, wait, we gotta go back. Is that a video game machine? An old
that's
machine?
That's a Tron arcade machine.
Ah,
You
cool.
guys ever play Tron?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not very good.
So what do people say when they come into your house and see all of this?
They can't believe it. I was like, holy crap. What do you do for a living?
They ask, what days are you on vacation again?
Yeah. What will you do in town? I guess I can switch back over to that.
Marshall, I'd be really curious to know about, in general, how you typically use some of these synths and maybe which ones you find yourself using the most. Okay, obviously you have two different setups, so I guess you would have to address it 2 different ways. But like the live setup.
Yeah, so for the live setup, all those synths in there, those are instruments that I've kind of worked my way through over time, figuring out like what I want to use in there. And it's still kind of a work in progress. Like I think I might take the A1 X out. And put the 8080 in instead, or maybe the Virus. Like I don't know yet. So some of that stuff is still kind of in flux. But at the moment, all those synths in there are in there because I think they all sound good together. And for the stuff I'm trying to make, I think they work quite well.
And so you've got that TD-03 or whatever, and that's typically your bass in the live room?
No, the bass right now, I think in the live rig is the Korg Radius.
Is it Radius?
Yeah. So, and
yeah, I just wondered.
I've got some other synths hidden away. Like I've got all the boutiques. I forgot. They're in my bedroom closet. I'm not gonna walk in there because there's somebody in there right now. But yeah, all the boutiques. I've got all the boutiques Roland's put out. The Behringer Model D, I still have that, and the TD3 from Behringer. I've got 2 of those. Yeah, I've got a pretty crazy setup.
I'll say
I'm
the
speechless. Base of Radius.
Yeah. Brett says, where's the elevator? Living in a synth castle or what?
No one
that's basically an hour walkthrough. Sorry, guys.
So how much does stuff move around? Because you've got extra synthesizers in various places, and how often do you find yourself swapping things in and out?
Pretty often. Not so much in here. Most of the stuff in here is set in here, but especially in the live rig, like I'm swapping stuff out all the time.
So, by the way, for the chat, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat, and this would be an excellent time for Marshall to answer some more of those questions. I think everybody right now is just stunned at the awesomeness.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm pretty lucky person. But this is something that it wasn't like I just went and started buying all this stuff yesterday. Like I've been buying and selling instruments since 2006, basically.
Mm-hmm. So has your philosophy about the setup changed much? Because you made a move, how long has it been? About a year and a half or 2 years or something? Since you moved from Colorado.
Yeah, I moved from Colorado here to Florida in 2019, like right before COVID happened.
So, like, being that you had a pretty established setup back there, did it change much when you moved in here, or did you decide like at that point to reorder things, to redo things, or did you just kind of go with a known setup?
No, I redid everything. Everything has been redone, even in this house, like multiple times. When I first moved in here, I put everything in the master bedroom because it's the largest room. And then I kind of got tired of being in a tiny room, so I decided to spread it out across a couple of rooms instead. That was pretty early on. And then when I first moved my stuff into here, I had everything kind of shifted 90 degrees, so it was different because, and I ended up changing this because I want the throw distance for the speakers to be the longest way of the room, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you don't get, because when you have your speakers and it's a really short distance to the back wall, it's going to mess up your mixing abilities pretty big time. So I changed this around so that the speakers will fire back towards the longest part of the room. Plus, I can open these double doors if I need to as well, which will give it a little more room. Maybe I should get a diffuser for back there. I don't know. But that's something I have never done is room treatment. I don't know how much it'll help. I mean, I'm kind of used to how everything sounds at the same time, so I don't know. I don't know if I need to.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's something to said if you know your speakers and you know your room, and you're able to mix for anybody's setup. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories of other people that have stayed on what would be considered, pretty mid-grade monitors and mixers that mix on them, and they're have clients that come in and are a little bit set back because they're like, well, why would you be mixing on these? And like, because I know them, I know it, I know how it's going to sound, I know how my mix is going to sound when it comes out, and if I change that, then it'll change everything up, and I'll have to learn a new system.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the downside to that is always just, you got a ear fatigue that happens after a while. Even if you get used to, it's like Yamaha NS10Ms or whatever. Like, they sound like hell, but you can learn to mix on them, but like they're just not fun to mix on. So they're okay as like a B pair, but like not as the main pair for me. I'd rather throw it at least to a second pair, but just to help with the ear fatigue. Because that one frequency response of the one pair of speakers, if it's shitty, I'm done in about 2 hours.
Yeah, I run into that sometimes too, when you get that ear fatigue. Even because these M audios, they don't have the best frequency response or the flattest frequency response. In fact, these color the highs a little bit too much. And so what I found over the years of using these and listening to reference tracks and things like that is like, these things make things sound brighter than they are. So you just have, that's one of the things you just learn about the stuff you have, and you learn to either deal with it or you buy something that's higher quality, I guess.
I mean, those aren't bad. Those aren't bad speakers. They're all right. You definitely get used to them.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah.
And compensate whatever, like you said, you just compensate.
Yeah, and I've had them, like I said, almost 20 years now. So.
Oh man, yeah, you're locked in.
Yeah.
Do you use any monitor? What's called compensation software, like for instance, like IK Multimedia Arc, and I know.
Yeah, the SonarWorks is one that I have. I've tried it. I don't like it. I think it messes me up, and maybe it's just because I'm used to what stuff is supposed to sound like on here, versus trying to make them sound more flat or whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but like it screws me up, and it's probably just because I've been listening to these for 20 years. So.
Yeah, you just naturally know how to compensate for whatever the little weirdnesses are.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm with you. I don't think I'd want to use the software at that point either.
Yeah, I tried it though because I was like, oh, that's interesting. If you can kind of flatten out the EQ curves on your speakers, you might be able to get cleaner mixes. And I suppose that's probably true. But the thing is, like, for whatever reason, when I do it and then I try to mix like that, everything sounds terrible. It's like starting all over again. So I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna go through all that.
So tell us about, you're sitting at the computer and what kind of stuff, because we've seen all your hardware. What kind of stuff are you doing in the box? You use Ableton. You've also said before that you use Pro Tools occasionally for certain functions. What's your in-the-box setup look like? Are there plugins that are your favorites? What kind of completes the workflow for you?
Yeah, so for a plugin, so dog choice is Ableton right now. I switched to Ableton in 2015 after being a Pro Tools user pretty much. When I got these monitors, I also bought a Pro Tools rig, a 002 rig. So it's like a rack audio interface. It's FireWire. You connect it with FireWire, and I still have it. It still works and everything. But Pro Tools, the thing that made me switch to Ableton was there was more options for VSTs. In terms of plug-in instruments, there was so much more coming out on the VST side, and Pro Tools has never supported that. They've got their own proprietary plugin. I can't remember what they call it now, AXX or AX.
AAX, yeah.
Yeah, and it used to be RTAS, but then they changed that. And I remember when they switched their own format, it kind of screwed me over on some plugins that I had because they weren't going to come out again in that newer format. And eventually,
because it was 64-bit.
Yeah. But they had,
pretty inconvenient.
It's super inconvenient. And after that, I was like, I'm just going to switch. Like, if I have to buy all my new plugins, or not all new plugins, but if I'm going to lose some stuff anyway, I think I'll switch. So I ended up switching to Ableton at that point.
I think Ableton is way more fun.
It is, but it's a little bit more. It is. It's way more fun, and you can do way more stuff in terms of like setting up a live show. Like you can't really do that in Pro Tools. Yeah. I don't know anyone that does. But Pro Tools is really good for audio editing. It's a lot easier to clip audio and move stuff around in Pro Tools than in Ableton, in my opinion. I don't really like the Ableton arrangement view very much. So that's why I tend to build my tracks in the clip mode, and then I will record the playback into the arrangement view, if that makes sense. So it's a completely different way of thinking at the same time. But I was pretty good with Pro Tools, and so it was a little bit of a switch, a shift to change over to that. And then I wasn't used to, like, I don't know if there's actually a difference in audio fidelity, but I felt like it sounded different to me coming out of Ableton than Pro Tools, and maybe that's just my brain being dumb. I don't know if there's actually a difference there. It's got all zeros and ones and how that's all processed anyway, but I don't know. I feel like it sounded different coming out of Ableton than Pro Tools.
Well, sometimes things like pan compensation will make it feel a little bit different.
They could,
They should be pretty close.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd have to do a direct comparison type thing. I don't really care about it. But I did feel like it was a little different, like sound-wise, going from Pro Tools to Ableton. But plugins, you guys are going to laugh at me, but maybe not laugh at me, but I have the Rolling Cloud. I've had the Rolling Cloud since they announced it, pretty much. And I was actually one of the lucky people who signed up early enough that after 12 months, they give you, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 plugins for life.
2, yeah.
So is it 2 every year, every 12 months?
Yeah.
So every 12 months, I get 2 more in my thing. So hopefully eventually I'll get enough of the good ones that I can just cancel the subscription part and I'll have all these plugins. So I do like a lot of the cloud stuff, the Rolling Cloud stuff. I think it sounds really good, and sometimes it's a little more convenient.
Yeah. Sorry. What are some of the ones that you use the most out of the cloud?
I really like the D50, and I like the believe it or not, the JD800 is pretty good on there. So sometimes I'll use the Jupiter 8. But I like the drum machines as well, because they've got the 808, 909, all of them 606. Like those are great to have in software, and they sound really, really good. The thing that's the biggest pain though is the whole authentication process. Sometimes it's a huge pain because you'll have, and then I think they went from version 2 VST to version 3 at some point. And so I found like sometimes if I open stuff that's in a version 2, what does that say? I'm not using, sorry. That's delayed. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying.
About Rolling Cloud opening VS2 or 3.
Yeah, there was like some weird thing where when they went from 2 to 3, I had some old projects that were using the version 2 and it wouldn't authenticate correctly for some reason. I don't know, it's just some weird. That's the stuff I hate about that. It's like, that's why I wish you could just, and I guess you kind of can. You can just buy them, but
yeah,
I think you still have to.
Yeah,
the authentication process.
System.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Like how they're doing that. It's It makes it terrible. That's what I hate about it. But they sound really good.
I'm not currently subscribed right now, but I've got a fair amount of them because I was like you. I'd got in just before they did the cutoff for the whatever it was, Play 2 for Life. So I get those, and then the only times I did subscribe is when they would be running some other one, so I could double up. But yeah, there's always problems. I kind of looking forward to Softtube releasing more Roland type synths because they do Roland stuff even better than Roland. So they just only have 2 of them right now, plus the Moog. So it would be nice to see those. And then of course there's like Tao, which is pretty well known for doing Roland stuff, but it is kind of becoming to that point where it's like I keep questioning: are these worth the hassle? But like you said, they still have some really great stuff on there. The D50, which is amazing, and then like you said, the drum machines are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just those alone, to me, that's worth a $19 subscription. Or just purchase one plugin at a time for a while to get those 4 or 5 that you really want. Because they do offer, you can pay for them standalone. I think you still have to deal with their terrible authentication thing every time.
Yeah, you do. I think usually the best way to do it is to wait. They have like, what was it, twice or 3 times a year, at least twice a year, they do another special. So you subscribe for a year, but then you get 2 for free. Not the lifetime stuff that we were talking about earlier, but that's usually the best way to do it because you end up getting the full licenses for cheaper than you can just buy them regularly. Because I think most of them are about $150 or so, and you end up getting a year of subscription plus the 2 cents, so they end up being $100 each. Plus you get the subscription, just kind of because.
And they keep adding to it, so it's. I feel like it's well worth the price per month. And I've kept it perpetually for however long. When did that come out? 2017. They started doing that. Yeah, so all the time. I use them all the time, is the thing. I use their plugins all the time. So I like that. I like the Spectrasonics Omnisphere. Omnisphere is one of my go-tos. I have like the Arteria V collection, but I can't remember which version it is, and I don't really use it anymore now that there's the Roland Cloud. Because I pretty much use their Roland plugins, their Arteria stuff back in the day. I don't really use them anymore.
They updated the Jupiter and added a Juno, and those are really good now. I mean, the Jupiter before, I mean, it was a little long in the tooth, but the new stuff is pretty good.
Yeah. I've got some sound libraries for orchestral stuff. I've got the East-West Symphonic Choir, Symphonic Orchestra, and I have the Symphonic Choirs as well. I've got a bunch of the East-West libraries because those are pretty old now. Those got to be around well over 10 years old now, but they still sound really good. I've got a Ministry of Rock thing, which is like emulates some guitar stuff. I don't know. I think it sounds pretty good, but Cryss would probably carry the new one, I'd imagine.
As long as it sounds good for your music. That's the thing. I mean,
I just use it sparingly here and there, a couple of things.
Yeah.
So, since I don't play guitar myself. That's pretty much it, though. I don't really have, other than some effects plugins and stuff like that, I don't have a lot on the plugin side.
Yeah. I mean, do you use compression, favorite EQ?
I just use the built-in Ableton stuff for EQ and compression. And reverb, I use the Art Acoustics reverb. I don't even know if you can get that anymore. I saw that watching a masterclass for Armin van Buren. It's this reverb plugin that he uses, and it sounds amazing. So I went and bought a copy of it. That was a long time ago. And I think even back then it seemed like you know, it's probably not like it's going to get any updates ever again, and I'm surprised I was able to even get it then. So I don't know if it's still available, but that's one of my favorite reverb plugins.
Well, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy between you're like, and part of your setup, you're like, I've just used this stuff for years and years, and till it dies, I'm going to just keep using this old reverb or whatever. And then other parts, you're like, I just got this synth, and I just got this synth, and I just got this synth.
Yeah, it kind of shows where my priorities are right there. I guess like I like the synths, like I like the keyboards and synthesizers part of it more than the the effects or I know some like Cryss, you have a pretty huge pedal collection, right? So there's a lot of people into that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I don't know, like I'm fine with the results I'm getting with some of the stuff I have for processing. And so I just kind of use what works, and I haven't done a lot of exploring outside of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I want to make sure we get this in before we wind it to a close. So, with your setup and your years of experience recording music, your really impressive setup. I mean, we didn't really even crack the surface of how you have all that stuff set up. I mean, you told us really brief overview of like your live room, and there's so many things that are interconnected. That whole system you've set up is really impressive. But for somebody that's watching and they're not they don't have the really sweet setup that you've got, and they're just adding to their collection, and they're trying to build their own studio at home, what kind of advice do you have? Like what are some of the things that were you had to learn lessons about, like you did wrong, mistakes made, but also what have you got right across all this time that you just really said, like, this is a good way to do it?
Well, one of the most challenging things when I started trying to purchase gear to build out something like this, my intent was never to have this much stuff. I never ever thought I would have this much stuff ever. But one of the mistakes I made was, it was impossible to know what I wanted, or you know what I mean? Like in terms of the sound I was trying to go for, like I didn't know what instruments were used for what back then. And I feel like that information is a lot easier to get a hold of now. So first thing is decide kind of what you want your style to be, or like what you want to kind of sound like who's your inspiration, like what kind of sound or type of music are you trying to go after, and then try to figure out what kind of instruments they use, and then go get those.
Yeah.
If you can. Some of them are probably going to be maybe vintage and very expensive, but in that case, try and get a plugin that sounds good or something. You don't always have to get the actual hardware anymore, which is kind of nice. But that's one of the big mistakes I had.
That seems to be one of the areas where being in the 2020s is pretty good, in that for a synth player, like if you got a MIDI controller, you can get the V collection or a rolling subscription for a month or something, and try out tons of stuff all at once, like and kind of find out. Or for guitar players with the modeling software or modeling amps, it's okay. Like modeling amp is not something I want to go play live with, but for when you're trying to find out, do you like Vox or Marshall or Fender or whatever, like you can play these sounds before investing a ton into them now.
Yeah. So that's a lot easier to figure out now though than it was back when I started this stuff. So hopefully people aren't still falling into those kind of pitfalls. But it took me a long time to find instruments that I like, and it was also a struggle to keep the ones that I did like anyways, because I was young and didn't have money. So sometimes when it got too tight, I'd have to sell something off, even though I really wish I could have kept it, But then as I got older and I got paid more money to work, I was able to acquire most of that stuff back again and hold on to it. So I'd say, like, if you can avoid trying to sell stuff, try to hold on to it if you can. Some people have the mentality that they don't like to do that. I guess I never understood that, because I'm like, there's always going to be a time where I may want to use a little fatty or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of glad I have one, and you know, I have this stuff so I can use it. It's, even though I don't use it every day, all the time, like I don't have to. The thing is that it's in the toolbox, so to speak. Like if I need this, I can go get it, hook it up, or if it's already in here, like I've got access to it, and that's the important thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to hold on to an instrument because, you know, we're musicians and whatnot. And so, right, it's like, there are times where it's like, oh, great, this has got to go.
Yeah, and that's understandable.
What happens? We wish we had back, but.
Oh yeah.
But if that's the last ditch, I mean, that's some of the most valuable stuff a musician owns. You know. It's like,
exactly.
It's frightening.
Oh yeah. So
well, that was pretty.
There's the tour, guys.
That was pretty awesome, man. Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's a good one. If anybody hasn't seen Tim's studio tour, please go back and check that out. It was also very fun and really interesting to go through all of Tim's stuff as well. And at some point in the future, maybe in the next month or two, maybe we'll do a walk around my studio. Although, man, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to go after you guys. So.
I'd love to see it. For sure.
Studio tour.
Yeah.
Come on.
So, Marshall, what you got going on? What's happening for the next week, man?
So I've been a little preoccupied this week, but I am still trying to get my actual studio tour video on my YouTube channel finished and ready to go. So I'm going to try and get that done this weekend. Awesome.
How about you, Tim?
I'm just laying for this gig I have on the 26th, so that's still kind of my main focus. And I'm the organizer and host too, so I've got some details to work out and trying to get some visuals in for us. Trying to find somebody that'll come in and maybe project some images while we play, and just trying to sort all that out. And I still haven't written the music. I mean, I basically have 2 little rough sketches, and I need to fill up 30 minutes, so. That'll be sort of that's definitely on the calendar, like every day next week. It's just do that.
Well, that's been a good few months for you. Like it's like every other week you're like, I got to learn 30 songs. I got to learn another 15. And some of those gigs you're having to write it all too, which is tough.
Yeah, it's fun. It's what I do.
Yeah. I don't really have anything exciting going on. I think I'm going to see my buddy on Friday, and the CR78 will go back, and he's got another CR68, a second one that I'll be working on. And I said, like, man, I just have been I've just been feeling a little out of it. So for the last couple of weeks, I really haven't been making music, but I have been getting some other stuff done where I don't have to be so focused, and so been doing more amp captures. Basically, it's software that will model an amp for you at certain settings. So I've been just trying to do some of that work, like things that you don't normally want to do that's kind of boring. Yeah. But I've been just trying to get some of that stuff out of the way. I did a bunch of organizing in here. Just putting stuff, I showed you guys, I did a little pedal rack behind me and just things like that, like things that I just haven't had time to do, or I haven't had the will to do. And so I've been trying to get a few of those things out of the way. So next week we will be back, and we've decided to do like a question and answer hangout type of thing. So we're just going to, as I say, shoot the shit, and just have some fun. And if you guys got stuff you want to talk about, it's ask us anything, and we may or may not answer, but we will have a good time. Anyways, you're always welcome to join us midweek. We have a Facebook group, Thru Port Collective. Same deal. I think links are in the description box below. If you have come to the end of this broadcast and you have really enjoyed Tim's, musketeer mullet in the beginning, give us a like. And if you enjoyed Marshall's Abercrombie and Fitch model Dawson's Creek haircut, also give us a like.
I'm never gonna.
And if you're ready for new wave grunge, then you can give a like for me on that. So the 90s are coming. The 90s are coming.
The 90s are back.
Yeah.
Votes will be tallied next week.
Anyways, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the great questions and comments you guys had. It just makes a really enjoyable time. Thanks to Marshall for that incredible tour. A hell of a lot of fun. So
Yes.
y'all have a wonderful night. We'll see you next week.